the leadership of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party met and agreed to once more suspend the mass protests that we had earlier scheduled to continue tomorrow. The coalition took this step following the decision by the Kenya Kwanza to accede to one of our demands that informed the resumption of the mass action.
Tunatarajia ya kuwa tutaweza sasa kuendelea na mazungumzo kwa njia ya amani na kwa njia ambayo itawaleta Wakenya wote pamoja.
A week of peace, it seems, at least towards the end of it. But of course, it started off with protests on Tuesday, earlier this week, with a promise that there would be more protests today. But, you know, thankfully not. But Jamila, before we even talk about, you know, this truce, and we'll get into the details of that. So what were the protests like on Tuesday? Did they seem a little more muted than the ones we'd seen before? Ulikuwa katika that place upstairs.
Gallery.
Called the gallery. Witnessing all of this.
Talk about bird's eye view.
Calling the shots, yes, as to
yeah,
the coverage
Tuesday.
for the
day.
So
at least where we get to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And Yvonne remembered the Azimio group had said that the mandamanos would start at 6 a.m. on Tuesday morning. And of course at 6 in the morning...
They had a whole plan, right?
They had a whole plan,
the places
exactly.
they were going to visit.
Yeah, yeah. But the leaders actually, we didn't know where they were. The whole day, because if you look at how it's been in the past, we'd have now the protests happening in Nairobi, in a few areas, in Mathare, in Kibra, in Kisumu, and some parts of Nyanza, and then we'd have the leaders come out at around 1:30 in the afternoon, and you have the convoy going different parts of the city. Of course, police not allowing them to get into the city center. Now, the Azimio leaders, we did not see them the whole day until around 4 p.m. when they came out and they spoke, and then they announced that there will be more protests on Thursday. And at the time, they accused government of deploying police and goons to scuttle the demonstrations. By this time, Yvonne, there was a matatu that had been set ablaze, and there was a trailer as well that was also set ablaze. A gentleman called Jibril was talking about how he was attacked when he was in his trailer along the southern bypass, and he only escaped with his phone, and the trailer was burned, and we saw those pictures on television. And then now that happened, and then we did see some protests in some parts of Mathare, where we had residents, of course, engaging police, but they were just kept within Mathare. I remember with this particular protest, they had the Azimio politicians had said they wanted to deliver petition to several offices. One was to Anniversary Towers, IEBC headquarters, over the August 9 election results. They're also going to petition the office of the president with evidence that the cost of food, electricity, and fees remain very high. The third office they were to visit was the National Treasury to demand the immediate release of all funds, all to counties, and for payment of salaries to civil servants. Then they were going to go to the Public Service Commission to demand that appointments to public offices be done purely on the basis of what they call merit and inclusivity. However, the members of parliament and the senators who were headed to the office of the president did arrive there at the main gate, and they wanted to present the petition, but they were not allowed. And then there were also tear gas walirushiwa wakafurushwa pale wakaondoka. Tukaendelea mbele. Then around 1 o'clock, we saw a convoy of vehicles coming all the way from Lavington through Kawangware, Waiyaki Way, and the police were following them behind. They went into Parklands, went all the way on Kiambu Road. They met police around there, and they could not make their way into the city. So that was from around 1:30, and then wakamaliza. Then at 4 o'clock, we had the leaders coming out and accusing the police and accusing the government of setting fire to the matatu and all that, and said they're actually the ones who seem to have started matatizo asubuhi. It wasn't our protesters. There were people who were arrested, 14 suspects who were arrested in Nairobi for arson and robbery and malicious damage to property, and 32 arrested in different parts of the country around Nyanza, and they were supposed to be arraigned in court. But then now, of course, we had the changes that happened. Yvonne, wakasema tutazungumza, we are back on the table, muondoeni Adan Keynan, which actually was done. He was replaced by a member of parliament, I think from Bura.
Yeah.
And then also now one of the demands that they made, they said, okay, we are willing to continue with this, but release those people who were arrested during the protests on Tuesday. And then they wanted the talks to be concluded within 30 days. That's one of the demands that was made today by the Azimio side. But remember, we kept talking about how this thing has not really kicked off, has not really picked up. But then now, does this mean that it is going to pick up, and that 30 days demand that is being made by Azimio is something that is possible?
Yeah.
In terms of now mazungumzo yaanze, wasikizane about the issues, because up to date they are not even agreed on the issues on the table.
Yeah.
They're not agreed about whether this talks will be within Parliament or outside it, because Azimio keeps saying outside. And the President, as late as I think this past week, said that the talks, I'm ready for them, but they have to happen within Parliament. So there are a lot of T's to be dotted and I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed for them to actually agree this is what you're talking about, and then we'll be able to finish this within 30 days.
Yeah, and you know, that you've mentioned even what the President said about you know, Azimio's demand to want to have the talks outside Parliament. Let's listen to the President when he first spoke on this issue, at least this week. That was on Labor Day.
Sasa ati wamekataa hiyo ya kwenda kuongea kwa amani kwa bunge. Ati wanataka kurudi maandamano. Ati waende wavunje mali ya wananchi. Ati waende waharibu biashara ya wananchi. Mimi nataka niwaambie, mimi ndio commander in chief. Nyinyi mtajua hamujui. Wawache hiyo mchuzi. Wawache.
Yeah, so here we are, Linus. You know, we keep talking about the talks, and there seems to be a lot of talks about how to talk. Does it feel like we're in a lethargy point where protests are on and then they're off, and then there's the condition that if we don't get this, then we're back to the streets? They did that today, you know, on Tuesday. And then, you know, the President saying, I'm standing firm, I am the Commander-in-Chief, you know, of the armed forces of the country. I will not be, you know, I will not budge. Like, we just seem to be in a bit of a loop, as Jamila has said.
And what the President means there is, I won the election. I'm the President. And what prevails really, and in my view, is a rather protracted post-election dispute. We've not really departed from the outcome of the election of August 9th last year. And that is why the players are all stuck here. And that's why you see in those remarks, you know, reference to the outcome of the election is always right there. And I think this will prevail until that anger starts dying down.
And when will that be, Linus?
It's taking time.
Yeah.
But I would say every week is different from the last. So time, they say time heals. And you can also tell by the intensity of the demonstrations. You can see last Tuesday that the intensity and you know, there's that public mood that attends to these things. You can see it on the street. You can see it even in those slums, when whether it's Mathare or Kibra or Eastlands, where the bases of Azimio are. You could see the energy. You can see when the energy is there. The energy this week was different, and we didn't see the kind of energy we saw in the last 3 weeks. Now, then there is the whole question of what next? Because the truce is here. We have an agreement between the bipartisan sides. Then what next? What happens? Because here is the scenario we are in. We're in a situation where we have talks about a subject that is yet to be decided. We have these generalities that it's about IEBC.
Yeah.
The how and the specifics is yet to be addressed, which is why I always find it too early for anybody to talk of hardliners, talk of stalemate. Stalemate over what? There isn't. The talks have not started yet. We haven't framed the issues for discussion yet. Which are the ones for immediate to be addressed immediately? Which are the midterm, and which are the long term? So the talks are yet to start. But for the first time this week, I sense some seriousness towards the bipartisan process. Azimio la Umoja, which has been resisting the parliamentary route, gave only one condition this time.
Yeah.
Remove Adan Keynan from the committee and replace him with someone else. That was done, and the talks are back. Now, and then there is something else that should be seen as progress. When the Azimio leader then talks of finishing 30 days, it means we have a window of 4 weeks, free of maandamano, and everything going to Parliament. For whatever they'll do with that process, they have those 30 days. So one day at a time, 30 days is a long time in the calendar, and 30 days is even a longer time in politics.
Before we come to you, Sam, just to listen to Opiyo Wandayi, that's a member of National Assembly, and Senator Aaron Cheriot, on just what you were saying, Linus, that, okay, there seems to be perhaps a change in the tone, and, it continues to get better and better every week. Let's listen to both the elected leaders.
Instead of holding the protests, we have summoned our 7-member delegation to the Bipartisan Committee for fresh instructions to inform further engagement with the Kenya Kwanza side.
As we have always stated, we are willing to bend backwards for the sake of progress of the country, national unity, and the stability of the nation.
Yeah, so a change of tune, Sam?
Right. I remember when we spoke about this the first time, we mentioned that it is going to be highly unlikely that the talks are going to stall because of Adan Keynan or even one David Kosing. And true to it, the time has come and a decision has been made. But I don't think it's just because Azimio made a lot of noise. I also think Kenya Kwanza is looking at, do we want baggage into these talks? Remember, Adan Keynan has been given a role in the new lineup at the Jubilee Party. Remember the former ruling party? That kicked out their party leader, the former president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta. And of course, because of that confusion that is going on there, they may not want to carry baggage into their talks. Also, at the same time, Jubilee Party is seeking to be recognized as a parliamentary party, and the new, should I say, acting party leader appointed by Kanini Kega, Sabina Chege, obviously wants to be leading that side of politics at Parliament. So we cannot have a deputy minority whip in the name of Sabina Chege is unwanted by the Azimio team. Actually, there's an active matter before the House, and a decision is to be given
They've been told, actually, and then Mujipange as a coalition.
Exactly. So that is happening, but you're also fronting a member of that part of the confusion to be one of your people to be holding those bipartisan talks. So I think on the basis of you don't want so much baggage into the talks, that may have actually been one of the key reasons to making that decision. But also at the same time, I spoke to David Kosing earlier because his party, Kenya Union Party, signed a coalition agreement with Kenya Kwanza Alliance sometime last week. And for him, he insists that those people that he saw there signing those documents, those are fake documents, those are fake agreements because they do not have the mandate of the political party. Of course, David Kosing is currently the chairperson of the Public Investments Committee on Commercial Affairs and Energy, and that is an oversight committee. Basically, traditionally, it is left to the minority side in the House. So if you had to say that Kenya Union Party is to move to the government side, then he should essentially lose that position as the chairperson of the PIC in charge of energy and commercial affairs. So really, it is about also guarding the interests of the party, but also the interests of the Member of Parliament in the name of David Kosing. But also the law is on his side, because if you do not agree with your political party to go to a certain direction in terms of a coalition, then you're allowed to stay back. But if you're to switch a tune so that you're no longer aligning with your political party, then there's a possibility of you being kicked out of that political party, which is quite a lengthy process. I
want us to listen to Adan Keynan reacting to his removal from the bipartisan team. It started out magnanimous, and then,
something.
Yeah, watch.
Taking into account that we have a country called Kenya, and our national interest actually supersedes our individual interest. Recognizing that our friends on the other side, the Azimio group, I'm sure this is not going to be the end of the many shortcuts that they want to take. I do not want Kenan to be used as an excuse in the name of the other many excuses that they're likely to generate in the next few days.
Yes, so that's that. And you can hear it from him. But he's not exactly happy to leave.
Yeah.
He would have wanted to be party to those bipartisan conversations. But also, now looking at, like Linus is saying here, moving ahead, it's going to be a very interesting season, knowing that at the moment, even the statement from Azimio la Umoja, they're insisting that their key issue is cost of living. They want the government to lower the cost of food, the cost of fuel. They want the government to lower the cost of school fees and also to reinstate the subsidies that are applying to various commodities just before the Kenya Kwanza regime came on board. But also talking about auditing the 2022 presidential election, and finally the restructuring of the IEBC. So those issues, as they remain consistent in as far as what the thinking was at the very start, is going to be very crucial, especially getting into the next stage of really framing the terms of reference and even the possible outcomes of this conversation. Remember, as all this is happening, Nelson Makanda is still in town with his team of 6 other panelists. Yeah. Waiting, what
are they doing?
Waiting to shortlist. Well, they got applications.
900 plus.
Close to 1,000.
Yeah.
I hear they went down to look at the shortlist, but it was never communicated.
Yeah.
Essentially, after that, they should have communicated the timelines of holding the interviews so that we can have a new commission, because they have work and a lot of work to come and do. But this is where we are. 30 days from Azimio, I don't know how many days Kenya Kwanza wants, but essentially, will they even agree on what the terms of reference are?
Yeah. And the member of parliament who has replaced Adan Kenan is Raso Dido Ali of SACU. I just needed to correct that. I'd said something else.
Okay, all right, okay.
You see, I think some 30 days, committee of 7 aside, I think we are witnessing the beginning of a process whose end we don't know. What I foresee is this thing will mutate into a different kind of conversation further down the road. Because let's be realistic, what can it do about the results of the last election?
Nothing.
Nothing.
About the
what can it do about the server? Nothing. What can the committee of 7 aside do about the Cherera 4? Nothing. So if they're going to sit in a room, they have to find something to talk about. And I think they are politicians, and they will find something to talk about. There's something unfortunate that has been very consistent about our politics way back from 97 coming this way. There's always a national rabbit that is released to be chased around, that will go around together with the rest of the conversation. In the last, President Uhuru's last term, that rabbit was called BBI. We had a very massive conversation, complete with very interesting votes in the counties. The country was engaged, and there was a constitutional moment.
It's the one we questioned here. Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to suggest we're just witnessing the beginning of the process that will see the rabbit for 2022-2027 term released. And all you need to look at is what else have the principals, the 2 persons around whom this whole conversation is really taking place, and that is President Ruto on the Kenya Kwanza side and Raila Odinga on the Azimio side. What have they been talking about that they have not put in the table? Because whatever they think, whatever they have spoken about, must find its way to the table. Raila Odinga went to a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, and from his what do you call it? Is it a rabbit hat?
Yes.
He pulled out 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. Something that he really wanted to bequeath to the region he came from. typically what these leaders have done, and that's from just the last time of Moi coming to Kibaki, there's always something that is about their political future and direction that then has to be anchored in the constitution. When you look at Raila Odinga in the last, whether 97 or 02, you know, it's always been about do we go to the parliamentary system, in which he saw himself as a person capable of pulling the parliamentary majority and becoming prime minister. What we are going to see from the 7 aside, the real conversation will emerge further down the line.
Yeah.
So these are preliminaries, talk about IEBC, but then the real issues
will come out.
Will actually be tabled. And our hope should just be, it shouldn't take all the 4 years that are remaining. But this is Kenya, it's actually possible. You start seeing this huge national festival that involves bombers, more delegates and things like that. You know, we've done this with the CKRC, we've done this with the BBI. We can do this with bipartisan.
Why
not?
Absolutely.
BP.
So we'll see what happens. BP, okay. Okay. So it is at that point, Jamila?
Final word. Nimezoea kuwapatia nyinyi nafasi kila siku, leo ni mimi.
Chukua